Election Day is a week from today, primary election day. And one of the propositions that you're supporting, I think maybe ties in a little to what could happen to Macy's. It's this proposition that would change San Francisco's tax policy to allow one-time transfer tax exemptions for owners of properties to convert from commercial to residential use. This is something that you support.
Yes.
I don't know if Macy's would end up being one of those locations if this passes, but there's like some 5 million square feet of location in downtown San Francisco that this would apply for. I want to hear why you support it and also why, we'll go into why little people are kind of against it.
Well, downtown can no longer afford to be the 9-to-5 financial district or just the retail location. We need to create places for people to live, to do business. We talked about also universities and lab space. We have a 3.7% vacancy rate with regards to lab space for the biotech industry. So the possibilities of doing diverse things in downtown is so important. Right next to Macy's in the old I-Magnum building, that iconic building is going to continue to be retail at the bottom, office in the middle, and housing at the top. And I think the ability to mix these spaces up and to make them more than just one thing or another is possible with something like the transfer tax that waives it for only those buildings that are converting those buildings to housing. And here's the thing. Not a lot of the buildings downtown can do this. There are only a select few, which you talked about in terms of square footage, but the ability to insert housing with business and office and even dorm room space and other things that attract people to the downtown area and make downtown more of a neighborhood is exactly what we're trying to accomplish with Proposition C.
The people against it saying that the city could lose $34 to $150 million over the next 30 years because of this transfer tax being lost. Also the taxes that could be lost from, retail stores not bringing in business anymore. And that these big companies that can buy a $25 million building don't need a tax break to begin with.
Well, first of all, just a couple of years ago, voters supported this transfer tax, so it wasn't even on the books. Second of all, we've passed over 10 new taxes in this city in the past, since I became mayor. And when you think about that, I have said time and time again, every time we put one of these on the ballot, we need to be concerned about retail. What type of impacts is this going to have on different industries? These are these various one-off tax requests that have led to a real challenge with retail and other issues in San Francisco. And more importantly, if we have more business, we have more opportunities and more things going on downtown, then we'll have more taxes and revenues that have been generated. Right now, that revenue is not being generated.
The spaces are just empty as it is.
And to do nothing is not acceptable because it's going to put us in an even far worse situation. This was projected. It was projected every time the Board of Supervisors decided they wanted to put a different tax or others decided they wanted to put a different tax on the ballot to ask voters to tax the rich, tax to this, tax to that. Eventually, there's a breaking point where people are looking at San Francisco and saying, it's no longer conducive to do business here in the same ways. San Francisco used to be in a situation where we never had to work hard for tourism, for conventions, for business. We had a line out the door for developers who wanted to build more in San Francisco. And guess what happened? The pandemic. And it changed life as we know it. And so we have to make some adjustments in order to incentivize and to bring businesses back, to bring people back, and to make downtown more of a neighborhood and more of an exciting place to be.
As you said, the status quo just isn't working anymore. Two other props to talk about quickly here that kind of tie together. Prop F, which is treatment and accountability measure, and also Prop E, that's the Safer San Francisco measure. So Prop F is for people who receive city funds, can be anywhere from $100 to $700, depending on their needs. They could be denied that fund if they are found to be abusing substances and then decide that they don't want to get treatment. And people are against this. They're saying that coercing people into treatment doesn't work. Why do you think that it does?
Well, you know who are the people who are supporting it? the people who are in recovery, the people who have suffered from addiction themselves on the streets of San Francisco, the people who are part of programs that are trying to help people get clean and sober. They believe that we as a city need to be more aggressive in tackling this problem. And so from my perspective, you know, this is where this ballot measure came from. There are a lot of people who are in a situation where they're studying this, where they might be involved in some way as a clinician, but has anyone talked to people in recovery, those who suffer from substance use disorder and those who are recovering addicts? That's where this is coming from. They believe that we need to take a harder stance, and all this says is plain and simple. If you want money from the city through our general assistance for individual people, that you have to be in treatment. And about 30% of the 5,200 people that receive these benefits identify as suffering from substance use disorder. And the goal is just to get them into a treatment program. It's not just about beds. It's outpatient treatment in our various clinics all over the city that would be provided for free. It's the possibility to try and make sure that there's an accountability component that will lead to someone having a better life. More importantly, because of the number of people who sadly have died from drug overdoses in this city, especially because of fentanyl, we need to take a harder stance and not be an enabler. We need to make it easier for treatment and to provide as many treatment options as we can, and to not continue to go down this path of handing out resources and not trying to use those resources as a way to get people the help and the support that they need to save their life.
So Prop E, quickly here before we run out of time, would give the San Francisco Police Department more power and less oversight. That's sort of how it's being plugged for the people who are against this. They're saying that they've made a lot of police reforms over the past few years, and this really chips away at that. Why do you support it?
Yeah, and that's not true about less oversight. And let's just talk about, you know, the pursuit policy. So right now, the police can only pursue when it's a violent felony. But in the middle of the night, when these small businesses are being broken into and the police arrive on the scene, there's surveillance that shows a police officer arriving on the scene, watching the suspect come out of the location with things in their arms. The police can't even pursue them in the middle of the night because it's not a violent felony. And so from my perspective, we've gone too far and we've not made the adjustments for the challenges that we're experiencing, and we're saying they should be able to do it when safe to do so. The daytime is a different story, because the daytime you have people out, you have folks out and about, and you want to make sure that we don't have pursuits in the daytime that could lead to private citizens being harmed by this, but that's where the technology comes in. That's where drones that could be used in these particular cases.
And they need approval from like the Board of Supervisors and the Police Commission in order to get that type of technology.
Right now, in order to use that type of technology, yes. And for example, we went through a process. It took 9 months to go through a process for surveillance technology access in the work that we have been doing in the Tenderloin to make arrests around drug dealing and violence and other things that many of the people who live in the Tenderloin have been asking us to deal with. And in fact, they made, within a 3-month period, 64 arrests, which included 2 homicide suspects because of the ability to use this technology. And our goal is public safety. Our goal is to use public safety and to use these tools responsibly. And more importantly, it does require that there's less time that police are doing a lot of redundant paperwork, and it also requires that the police commission has to communicate with the public about these changes, that they have to have a robust process before they make changes that potentially make us less safe. And I think that some of these policies that have been moved forward through criminal justice reforms, which I've been a leader on and I've pushed for, have in some cases gone too far and created more challenges for us around public safety. But despite that, we still have one of the lowest crime rates that we've had in 10 years, not including a global pandemic. And our officers and all the work that we've been doing has been having an impact, but that does not mean that we do business as usual. We need to make sure our officers have all the tools they need to be successful at combating crime in San Francisco.
Mayor London Breed, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time and getting a chance to come chat with us here this afternoon.